touch.
It's time for Wellness Wednesday, and this Wednesday we're joined by Xenia Mahavik. Her practice in Uxbridge is A Little Zen. She's a registered clinical social worker who will help with depression and anxiety, grief and loss, substance use, work-life balance, caregiver stress and or self-care, self-esteem, sex and gender identity, social and life skills development, life transitions adjustment, and trauma. Call 905-904-0398. And pandemics as well. Xenia joining us on the line right now. Scott Campsell from Okami Kai Karate also on the line. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning. It was interesting listening to that intro. It was almost like playing with hockey cards. Like, got it,
yeah.
Need it, got it.
Yeah, unfortunately, Xenia, these days a lot of need it. I know you've been really busy, haven't you?
Yeah. I might pause on that. Yes, I have been busy. And what's cool, though, is to see, I'm starting to do more virtual groups and building some new things that are going to be coming out in the spring when, we can get outside a little bit more. To really kind of focus on having people come together. What we've been missing is this element of community. So, starting back some different groups, virtual groups and hybrid groups where we'll be going both outside into the forest and doing a mix of virtual. And people so far have really been enjoying it because we need to connect with one another. So we need to share our stories and our experiences and feel validated. Because one of the things that we're missing right now is that validation for our feelings and what we're experiencing.
Yeah, no, and I'm wondering, you talk about virtual, and we've heard of the studies and how people are reacting, and it really does feel different than sitting there in the same room with people, having a meeting. Not that people love meetings or anything, but compared to Zoom, there is a difference. And I'm wondering, do you hear any of that? The fact that, yes, I'm having connections with people, but it is virtually, whether it's a Zoom meeting or whatever, because suddenly now you got someone staring at you and you feel like you're being stared at the entire time. Do you hear any of that?
I often hear, because I'll make comments about what I see on my face when I'm seeing it in the camera, and I love the comments back of, no, we're all just looking at ourselves anyways. So they're connecting, but, in terms of a therapy standpoint, what's been really cool about this is that people don't have to find babysitters. They don't have to try to juggle their time. And we're really using our psychological flexibility to be able to be present, but also have some space for, I had somebody saying, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm paying attention, I have my video on, you can see me, but I am prepping dinner. And typically when we would do in-person groups, we would say, no, you're going to be here, be all of here, be focused. But right now we really have to have this flexibility to be like, are you going to get something out of it? Is it okay with the rest of the folks in the group? And everyone's like, yeah, because we're just so maxed and our capacity is limited that if you can still get an element of it while you're, washing your vegetables for dinner, then let's do that.
Yeah, no, it's interesting.
Try to ease up a little bit.
It is interesting. We had a Zoom call for Easter Sunday with my family. I mean, my grandson and son were at my place there in my bubble. But we had the rest of everybody else in the family on Zoom, and it was transportable. So it went from one room to the next to outside. To one point, my aunt said, "Is the dog with a squeaky toy?" And I said, "No, those are the birds." So it's introduced this other aspect of it, and I don't think that much a while ago that would have done that. So as you say, it is kind of that flexibility. But one thing I'm really hearing these days, the anger, and I think it's anger. Maybe it's just impatience. Uh-huh. Is it maybe impatience or is it anger?
Well, it could be anything. Anger is it's a primary emotion, which means we do feel emotion. We do feel the emotion of anger, right? It's an emotional state that varies from intensity, from mild irritation to intense rage or fury. But it's also a secondary emotion, right? So the tip of the iceberg. So I loved how you said, is it anger or is it not? Well, it's hard to say. It could be anything. It could be any feeling that we're experiencing that we're not acknowledging. And then it's like that iceberg that bubbles up and then starts to push, where you see only the tip of it above the water, whereas underneath is all these other things: sadness, hurt, invalidation, fear, worry, worthlessness.
Right.
Anger, unfortunately, over the years has become a more socially acceptable emotion than, say, sadness, or ones that we would, construct as weaknesses. Because anger shows, what does it show? Dominance, aggression.
But the thing is, it also creates collateral damage, especially within
Absolutely.
within these family confines now, which are tighter than ever because of stay-at-home orders and things like that.
Yeah.
So how do you acknowledge that without hurting others around you?
So there's different ways. We have to express our anger, right? So anger is a natural way, is a natural response to trying to keep us safe when we see that we're in danger. And it can be caused both external events and internal events, right? So we could be angry at a specific person, family member, boss, supervisor, coworker, or an event like, lockdown, having to go back to curbside, or whatever it is. Kids might be coming back home. We can be angry about events. We can be angry at people. And then we can also be angry at the uncomfortability of the emotions that we're feeling. So there's 3 typical ways of dealing with anger. So the ways that we can deal with anger are going to be more expressing anger, where we're going to be expressing it verbally, how to deal with it. So talking about it, we can learn how to be assertive, not aggressive. So that's like the healthiest way to express anger, because we still need to let it off, right? You shake that pop bottle enough, if you don't let out a little bit of that fizz, it's going to explode, which is what happens with our anger. Another way that we can do it is by suppressing it. And this is typically where we hold it in and we try to stop thinking about it and go to this, this place of trying to be positive or look only at the good things. But this ends up inhibiting ourselves, and it can create more damage internally, and then that happens externally with the others of the people that we tend to care about.
Look at me, I'm Zen.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
just pretending.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of conversations, and I think we talked about it last time too, about this idea of toxic positivity. We so desperately want to look at the great things that are happening, because there are some cool things that are happening. There are some, my kids have finally, a year into COVID living, are really getting along. It was touch and go there for a while, but we can look and experience the comfortable emotions without pushing away and ignoring the uncomfortable emotions.
So with so many facets of anger, is that part of what you're doing when you're working with a client? Is it trying to figure out the adjective that goes with what they're feeling, just so they can sort of break that down?
Yeah, it's emotional identification, right? So really kind of, we'll use the feeling wheels and other tools to say, is it anger? Yes. Okay, so how intense is the anger? And is there something else there? Yeah, there's also a lot of sadness, or there's helplessness, or there's feeling of disrespect, which are different, right? I can feel disrespected and I can feel angry, and I can feel them both at the same time, but they're not the same emotion, and they'll show up differently for each of us at different times.
Right. And this is your role as a therapist in making sure that they understand where that anger is coming from, because it can be misdirected, or you may think it's one thing. It's like almost like sciatica, isn't it? Hey, the pain's here, but actually the problem's over here.
Absolutely. That's exactly it. So we do different things. We'll do, relaxation techniques. But, it's really hard to come down from when you're feeling like, a 9, 8, 9, 10 out of 10 in terms of anger or frustration. So before that, we have to build awareness, and we do some cognitive restructuring, where we learn to understand what it is that's happening within us, identify the emotions, how it's showing up, and then learning how to respond to it. So sometimes that's through relaxation, sometimes that's through problem solving, sometimes that's through learning effective communication skills, and other times it's using humor. Like before we went live, we were talking about just, how things are shifting and changing, and using humor and being silly is a way to diffuse our rage in a number of ways. And it can help us create a more balanced perspective. Doesn't mean that we agree with everything and we're taking light of it, but like, let's give ourselves permission to have some space to
I knew I had a role in
exhale.
society somewhere.
I was just thinking we got to bring up our game. Like there's a point too, even with personality, where where Dan and I will talk, and I don't know, maybe it's just me, but there's a lot of things that we'll see on the same wavelength, and it's interesting just to basically break down, like how he would see the pandemic, how he would see being away from people, or you see an extroverted person maybe that, is suffering because they haven't been able to connect. Meanwhile, introverted people, this is like where we thrive.
Yeah, for sure. It's where we thrive. And I mean, I'm a person that would seem that I'm an extrovert and I'm a little bit of both. I can be extroverted when I use it as a tool to support when I'm feeling anxious or stressed. And we look at the extroversion. It's when do you get served and filled up by the not just the company of others, but like with larger groups, or does it take away from you? So a lot of us, like whether we're extroverted or introverted, I think we're still really struggling with the fact that we haven't been able to really change our environments. And that's one of the tools to being able to kind of manage anxiety or manage anger, to be able to change our environment so we can get a different perspective. That's been really hard for us.
And that's what
So
you're
how can
doing
you
with
do that
these
in your
courses, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So some of them will be, how do you change your environment? How do you change your perspective? And sometimes it can be as easy as, rearranging your home office, where you're now going to be, instead of facing, the north, you're going to do a quarter turn of your desk, so you're now facing west. What that does is that already starts to restructure your cognition, because your brain has to think about things differently because it's seeing things from a different perspective. And then you can turn that into life and how you're behaving in the world.
And as far as being both introvert and extrovert, I'm a Gemini, so yes.
There you go.
I just answered that yes, because I know of both. But you as we wrap things up, I just want to talk about something you had mentioned right off the top, that you're working on this new course. So it's going to be, and hopefully it goes into place in May, right, after the current lockdown?
Yeah, I've got a couple programs that are coming. Some they're already actually in action, but the next start date will be the beginning of May. It'll be a virtual program, the Exhale program. So how can we exhale, let go, and live in alignment with our values, live with purpose and intention? And then on Saturday, May 15th, if all, we're all good to do this, I'm going to be having it'll be the kickoff to Exhaling to Your Roots, where it'll be a hybrid program connecting with Dogwood Acres out there, just kind of Port Perry, Uxbridge area, and really getting into some forest therapy, where we would meet once a month out into the forest and then have virtual groups weekly in between.
So are you building things virtually to get to that stage outdoors?
I'm building both. We're always doing some forest therapy. I'm doing the walk and talk. We've been able to do that, but I'm trying to bring more of it to the groups because, again, people want to connect.
And if somebody is interested, how can they get a hold of you?
They go right to my website, alittle.zen.ca, or you can find me on social media, Instagram and Facebook, A Little Zen Counseling, Psychotherapy, and Coaching.
You might have to change your name to A Lot of Zen these days.
Well, you know what? We're getting micro changes. Let's be realistic. Micro changes, I can do a little.
There you go. I like that. Build on the littles, which makes a lot, right?
That's it.
Well, listen, we want to thank you for your time. It really is helpful. I had somebody made a comment, something you had said in one of our segments, and they said, it was a little thing, but I did it, and wow, it does make a difference. And I guess that does truly wrap things up, as we said. It's the little things that will build into bigger things in a positive direction. We want to thank you for helping us here today and helping so many as well on a regular basis.
Oh, thank you, and thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being had. You knew I had to walk into that one, right, Scott?
As soon as she said it, I was like, well, here we go.
Here he goes. Here he goes. But as we said, that's our role in society, trying to put a smile on people's faces. Scott, thanks for your...
bring up our game then.
Well, I know. I'm going home to work on it right now. Scott, we'll talk to you again next week.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Thanks, Xenia.
Xenia, thank you. And stay safe.
You too.
Take care. Bye-bye. That is Scott Capsule from Okami Kai Karate and Xenia Mahavik. Again, her practice is called A Little Zen.